Hi, welcome to the Righteous Ruckus podcast, and I'm your host, Riley Lowe. And I'm not sure, this is a kind of a fun fact. You can go the rest of your life without eating. Did you realize that? And drinking, for that matter. You can go the rest of your life, never take another bite of food, and never drink another bit of liquid at all. The rest of your life. Now, it might shorten your lifespan, but you could definitely do it. So anyway, I'm going to talk about fasting. Let's get into it.
It's time to get off the church benches and into the trenches. Let's make a righteous ruckus.
All right, so I know what a lot of you all are probably thinking whenever I said the word fasting. You're like, oh no. I looked through my whole closet and I don't even own a piece of sackcloth. And I don't even know where to find ashes right now this time of year. So it's not what this is about. I'm not going to go down that path. Don't worry about that. But I am going to talk about, I'm kind of new to this whole fasting deal. This is actually something it was common, in the older days and the older times. And it's just kind of, I don't know whether it's just fallen out of favor. Because I think, eating and is a lot about socializing. And it's just, we don't lack for food at all. We don't got to make our food a lot of times. I mean, we'll cook it or prepare it, but it's not like we're going out and slaughtering a pig in the morning so we can have bacon the next day. But anyway, it's just one of those deals where people don't fast like they used to. And fasting is a good deal. And I actually recently started this. I actually heard a preacher is on a podcast I was listening to, and this guy, his reasoning for fasting was to focus and pray for our country, pray for the United States of America and the future of our nation. That was his focus for that. He actually had a deal, which it was catchy. It's catchy. It's called Fasting Fridays. And this is not talking about fasting all day Friday, but what he would do, and I've done this several times, and it's a great way to start fasting, is he would go, he described his fasting Fridays as you eat supper on Thursday evening, right? And once you eat supper, then you don't eat again until supper time on Friday evening. So you go, a full 24 hours without eating. Basically, you can drink water, in that scenario, and that was basically the only rule is don't eat, and that's tough to do. Actually, I did it once or twice, and then I talked to my brother to getting in on it some, and it's a difficult thing to start. We would kind of hold each other accountable. I think that's a smart thing to do. It's really between you and God, but I think it's a smart thing to do to find somebody where you can kind of, hey, we're in this together, or hey, we're doing this. You could check up and kind of go that route. So that's a good approach to it. But what is fasting? Fasting is basically abstaining in the traditional sense. It's abstaining from food in order to focus on God and become closer to God. You'll hear these days intermittent fasting, and that's like a diet regimen, right, for people to lose weight or to change their bodies to get into something. That's not what I'm talking about. Now, that may be, if you do lose weight while fasting, that's just an added benefit, right? It's kind of like saying, hey, I'm going to brush my teeth so that I don't get cavities, and then you just happen to get good breath because of that, right? You're brushing away and you're helping keeping the bad breath away. That's just a beneficial side effect of your intended purpose. So the intended purpose of fasting is just to get close to God and to focus on God and have your mind and your thoughts dwell on God. We live in a time, a day, and an age where it is so easy to get busy, right? Get busy. I think that's one of the great tools of Satan, if you will, is to, if he can't make you bad, he will make you busy. It's very easy to fall into that and become busy doing all manner of things. It's happened to me before, and it'll happen to me again. Like I mentioned before, actually it was on the previous podcast about how I had a time where I felt like I was far from God. I also noticed when thinking this fasting theme came on my mind recently, and I was remembered that I had gone a couple weeks without fasting whenever I did feel far away from God. So I think that's a potential added benefit of that. And that's founded. It's not me guessing there. It is founded. But back in the days when the disciples and Jesus was walking the earth, right? It was expected that you would fast, actually. And like here, let's look in Matthew 6:16. Here, Jesus is talking to his disciples and he says, when you fast. He's telling them, describing fasting, but he says, when you fast. He doesn't say if you fast or if you consider fasting in the future or maybe someday if you think you might fast. He just says, when you fast. It was an expectation that they were going to fast. And so it was basically an expectation there. But what you got to be careful of. So the reason is to give up something. And so a lot of people are really familiar with the concept behind Lent, right? Lent, I think it's more of a Catholic thing, but a lot of people get wrapped up in that and do that. And they'll go through the season of Lent where they give up something for however many days it is. I forget. And they'll give up, I think 40 days usually. So they'll give up something, usually something pleasurable that they enjoy doing. They'll give that up. And the intention behind it is the same thing with fasting here, is to help you give that up, and you're not wanting to cause yourself to suffer. Like you're not wanting to like beat yourself up for God. What you want to do is actually abstain from something so that you can use that to focus on God and become closer to God and dwell on God and hopefully communicate with God. And so another thing that you got to watch out for, though, is it's easy to think that, well, I'm going to fast because I want this from God. God is my cosmic genie, and I want to be sure I'm rubbing the lamp right so that I get my 3 wishes, right? That's not the way God works. So you got to be sure that you're not, your intentions are not to try to coerce God into doing something for you, right? That's not the intention of a fast. Even look here in 1 Corinthians 8:8, right? Here Paul's saying, but food does not commend us to God, for neither if we eat are we the better, nor if we do not eat are we the worse. He's saying if you eat or if you don't eat, if you fast, if you don't fast, it doesn't make you a better person or a worse person in God's eyes, right? You're not changing that, right? So that's what that's saying. So don't think that, well, I'm going to fast, do this fasting Friday thing that Riley just talked about, so that maybe I will get what I've been praying for, right? That's not what that's about. That's not the goal of fasting. And so let's go back to what I mentioned earlier in Matthew 6:16, when Jesus said, when you fast, all right? So that's the expectation then. Like I said, it's just something that's kind of fallen out of favor. We're not in the habit of it. It sounds old-timey-ish, if you will, like getting the sackcloth and ashes or ripping your clothes off when you're upset about something in mourning, But this is what you got to watch out for. Is another reason sometimes people will fast and they'll walk around all day saying, oh, look at me. Oh, I just feel awful. I mean, I'm just starving. I'm fasting. Oh, well, why are you fasting? They're looking to get that attention, right? Or I'm fasting. I cannot go out to eat lunch with you because I am fasting. That is how dedicated and how much of a Christian I am. Right. Those are the temptations there. You have to keep yourself in check with that, because that would be an easy temptation to fall into. Now listen to this. Like I said, Matthew 6:16, this is Jesus talking to his disciples. Moreover, when you fast, like I said, he says when, not if you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance. Don't go around looking all sad. For they disfigure their faces that they may appear to men to be fasting. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face. In other words, clean up, look presentable, look good, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but but to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in the secret will reward you openly. In other words, this is between you and God. This is not you making a show and telling everybody you're fasting and screaming it from the rooftops, I'm fasting because I'm better than everybody, or I'm fasting because this is what I want. You need to focus on you and God, your relationship between you and God. That's what you're focusing on there. And really it can also be viewed as an act of worship to fast. That can be incorporated in your worship, right? You can pray, you can worship God in unison with your church family. You can sing praises to God, and you can also fast. All right, listen to this. This is in Luke 2:37 and 38. And this woman, I think her name was Anna, and this woman was a widow of about 84 years who did not depart from the temple, but served God with fastings and prayers night and day. And coming in that instant, she gave thanks to the Lord and spoke of him to all who looked for redemption in Jerusalem. She served God with fasting and prayers night and day. In other words, she incorporated that in her worship of God. So I think that's the very important thing to consider there, is working that in as worship. Now, there's some different kinds of fasting, and this is what you got to see here. And so, like in Daniel, right? In Daniel 10:3, he fasted, and he did what I've heard it called a partial fasting or whatever. It's basically, it's kind of like what you would do for Lent, that sort of fasting, that sort of deal. Where Daniel basically abstained from delicacies and meat and wine for 3 weeks. Essentially, he just gave up pleasurable things, right? He's still, like, you can have bread and water, right? That's no big deal. But he was abstaining from the decadent things so that he could focus on God. And that's a great way to start. You could just say, hey, I'm not eating any candy. I'm not going to have the snacks or the chips or the cookies. I'm going to put those away. I'm going to fast from that. You could do that. And then there's what's called a complete fast, where you can eat. You don't eat anything, and then you can have water or maybe some juice, that sort of thing. Just some drink. Don't go drinking a bunch of pop or soda or Coke, whatever you call that. But that's that sort of thing, and you can do that for a few hours. You could do it. You skip a meal. You could do that. Whatever. The goal here is not following and checking off boxes. The goal here is you focusing your attention on God. And then there's also the supernatural fast, okay, that's what they're just called. And that's total fast. No food, no water, you're not consuming anything in your mouth, okay? And that's what happened. Like Paul went on an absolute fast for 3 days, and once he encountered Jesus in Acts 9:9, and Moses and Elijah in Deuteronomy 9:9 and 1 Kings 19:18, they went on an absolute fast for 40 days. And actually, Jesus went on an absolute fast when he went in the wilderness, and was tempted by Satan, and in preparation to begin his ministry. Right, he was fasting for 40 days out there. So the main thing though is to know why you're fasting, and to use that fasting time to focus on God. All right, because that's the thing, is you do not want to, and it's easy to do. You can fast, and you can get. And I've had this happen to me before. I got caught up in fasting and focusing on, oh, I'm so hungry. Oh no, I might break the fast, and then I might not complete it, and almost dwelling on that more than dwelling on God. And so here's the way I go about it. Is I tell myself beforehand, I'm going to fast on this day, right? Whether it be I'm going to stop eating, and that's actually a great way to do it. The whole supper to supper fast, right? From eat supper one day, and then you skip breakfast and lunch the next day, and have supper that following day. That's a great way to do that and get into it. And but it's a psychological game and a prayerful game. Okay. A game it's not the best description there, but it's an approach. Okay. I tell myself, this is just me here. You guys do whatever you want to do this. There's no real solid rules for fasting that are in the Bible, right? But what you need to do this is what I do, is I will tell myself at least a day beforehand, I'm going to fast on this day. When I first started, I actually put it in my calendar on my phone so that it would remind me. That way you knew that was coming up. And I would eat a big supper so that I would prepare for the fast, right? I'd load up. I'd fill up my tank so that I'm not going to be running on empty as bad the next day. But I would pray that evening. I still do this. I pray beforehand, God, I'm going to be fasting for you. Help me to focus on you. Help me to focus on and listen to and be receptive to how you guide me. Listen to how you guide me, and also to just fully focus on you, God, because I want to take anytime I feel hungry the slightest bit or feel the urge to eat food, I want to take that as a key, as an alarm to focus on you, God, and as a reminder to draw closer to you and nearer to you. That's my approach there. And then that next morning, I do the same thing. First thing in the morning, I get up. God, I'm going to fast today. Give me the strength to do so. Give me the power to do so. The reason why I'm doing this is because you have given me so much, God, and so much that I don't deserve. So much grace, so much mercy. And I want to just show a little bit of gratitude that I'm able to in this moment, and to focus my attention on you. There's so much noise in the world today, and I want to focus on you, God. And it's just a great way to focus. And I actually like the Friday deal, because you go into the weekend already focused on God, right? Plus Friday, it's easy. Most thing is like, oh yeah, we're going to kick back and relax. It's Friday. This is a great time for you to take that time that would normally be thinking about the weekend and thinking about relaxation, and focus all that energy on God. At least I think it's a great way, a great approach to do that. But the reality is, look, not everybody can fast. There's people that have diabetic conditions and whatnot, and a fasting from food is not for them. It's great. I've heard people that I've done this once or twice, done a social media fast for a week. And you can go a lot longer when it's not things that you need to survive, right? So social media fast, internet fast, phone fast, something like that. Boy, it'd be nice to take like a work fast or something, or take a fast from the bills or something like that. That'd be great if that was cool. But you get what I'm saying here. But there's other forms of fasting that you can have the same reward and reestablish that closeness with God by doing those. And I encourage you to explore those options, especially if you're unable to fast from food. All right. And even if you do fast from food, it's probably not a bad idea to explore that. Now, here's what I saw happen when like I said, I had gone a couple weeks without fasting, and I noticed the difference. I felt distant from God. Now that's me, right? Again, that's going back to my last podcast. That was me knowing that I should have and not doing it, right? That's all that was. And so I had to reconnect and reestablish and draw closer to God, draw nearer to God. But here's something that I notice is whenever I would fast, after I had done this for a few weeks, even I would go one day, and I would be like, I really like and am thriving in how close this is getting me to God. Let's take it let's go another meal. Maybe I don't eat it all on Friday, and my next meal will come Saturday morning. It seemed like the closer you get to God, the more you draw into God, the less, oh, I'm so hungry. Oh, I wish I could eat. Oh, I could do it. The less that happens, right? The less the less that those sorts of intrusive things creep into your mind and make you want to just go, oh, I just wish I could eat a piece of pizza, which ironically, I just went out to eat with my brother. We ate big old pieces of pizza right before talking about fasting. But so there, I'm filling my tank, right? Filling my tank up, preparing for fasting. And that's not wrong to say, hey, I want to fill my tank up. I'm going to prepare. That's all part of the deal. I'm going to prepare to get close to God. That way in the morning when I wake up, I don't have to worry about, that's one less excuse I have. I can't say, oh, well, I didn't eat much yesterday, so maybe I should skip fasting today. That temptation's gone because I can say, I loaded my tank up, I'm stuffed, all right? So that's the thing. Now, this is ties in with fasting, and this is sort of I mean, for me anyway, one of the reasons behind the whole fasting thing, other than Jesus expected that his disciples would fast, not that if they fasted, but that they would fast. When he says, when you fast, do not do this, do not be like the hypocrites. And so other than that, here's another thing is if you look in 1 John 2, verses 15 through 17, this is what fasting helps keep you in check on. Here it says, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world is passing away, and the lust of it. But he who does the will of God abides forever. In other words, you're going to live forever. That's you trust in Jesus, you accept him as your Lord and Savior, you confess your sins, you do all that stuff for salvation, and you will live forever. And this is just an outward expression, almost, baptism is an outward expression of that. I think fasting is an outward expression that's only between me and God. Instead of baptism is like showing everybody else an outward expression of my death, burial, and resurrection in Jesus. This fasting is between me and God, almost saying, God, I'm reminding you and reminding myself that I'm yours, wholeheartedly. And it also helps me just to refocus on God on a regular basis by doing that. And so it helps you drown out the noise of this world and the temptations of this world and the temptations of sin. And it's easier to focus on heavenly things when you're fasting than it is on earthly things. And that's the reason why, because you're restraining and withholding the food from your flesh, right? For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, right? Lust of the flesh. When you're causing your flesh to, suffer a little bit, then you're using that suffering to focus on God. It's a good way to deprive your flesh and abstain from any sorts of lust or the lust of the eyes or the pride of life. All those things, it's saying it's of the world. The view and your focus on the world goes dimmer, and your focus on heavenly things and godly things and spiritual things is improved, right? So you're basically dimming the light on the world and you're shining a spotlight on God when you're fasting. And then, because the spotlight gets awful bright on the world in day-to-day life, and it's awful easy to turn and dim the lights on heavenly things when your day-to-day life. That's what fasting is, just another facet to bring in to your spiritual worship and your spiritual life, to focus on God wholeheartedly. So anyway, I hope that has been a help to you. I know, like I said, I'm pretty new to this whole fasting thing, but I do enjoy it. There's a great benefit to it. And I enjoy it when I fast. It's weird how something that can start off as being labor intensive, and it's just kind of a drag. Am I really going to do this, Riley? And that can turn into, I'm looking forward to fasting, right? Now, yes, admittedly, I need to do more of it. I need to be better at it. And I'm constantly working on that, which means I'm constantly working on getting closer to God and getting better acquainted with God and getting better at worshiping God. So those are all great things. So my prayers that this will inspire some of y'all to start fasting, or maybe encourage you to keep fasting. That's my hope there. Now, one of the best things you can do for this podcast, and maybe it's selfish of me to ask, is to share this with somebody, right? Send it to a friend, send it to a Christian friend, send it to somebody else. Just say, hey, check this out. I listened to this. Send it to somebody that you're thinking about fasting with. Say, hey man, I'm thinking about fasting. Would you want to fast with me? And maybe we can hold each other accountable, right? That's a great way to do that. So you could give them this message to help them maybe kind of understand why you're interested in that. And also don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever it's called, on whatever platform you're using, whether you're listening and whether you're watching. So anyway, I hope that this episode has really helped you out. I know this is a whole realm that I'm enjoying and that I look further into delving into. So until next time,